Hello guys, I'm Callum and welcome back to the Try Time Podcast. We're on episode 28. Obviously usually you'd hear Matt here, but it is just me today. Generally nothing major, just a small sort of scheduling conflict. We're both really busy at the moment this last week or so, hence why there's no video on Saturday, both working and so I've got uni and stuff like that as well. I won't get into that too much, but that is why. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will be back in studio, which we're looking forward to for you guys. You can actually see us when you're watching the podcast in person in the studio together. We've got a load of other video ideas, podcast ideas for when that happens, which we could do them now, but they are better and they're going to be better content once we are there in the studio together. So you've got that to look forward to. But yeah, for today you have just got me. Before we get into it, I just want to say, as always, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, that sort of thing, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave us a review, follow us, subscribe, and all that stuff over there as well. And, just keep up the love. Like I say, we didn't get a video out on Saturday because of the schedule, and we have had messages and comments and stuff on social media about this, asking, where the video was, which, even though it's not ideal from us, the fact that we haven't been able to get the content out, it is refreshing to know, that the people out there and, that people are enjoying stuff, which, we are getting a lot of positive feedback to which we do appreciate and we would, encourage as well, guys. But yeah, so today we are just going to be doing, the classic usual, reviewing a weekend's worth of fixtures that were, really good in both leagues as well. So we'll get stuck into them. Then obviously we'll go over the fantasy league, see who's got the bragging rights this week. It's definitely not me at the top, as you probably can expect. And then we'll look ahead to the weekend's fixtures, which looks to be another quality weekend of rugby league, which we seem to be getting a lot of right now, and it is really refreshing. I'm seeing a lot of positivity all around Facebook and that sort of thing in forums, where you usually see a lot of negativity. There's a lot of good rugby matches on, so we'll get stuck into it. So actually, usually we might start with Super League, but I'm going to start with Championship this week. Obviously, it's just me, no Matt, so we'll start with Championship. We'll get stuck into it. So Saturday, Batley versus Oldham. Batley 48, Oldham 10. Interesting, Batley have started looking really strong. Strong in terms of in the cup. Beat Halifax, came close against Fev. Then round one in the league, came close against Fev, and now they've shown what they've got. They've got the actual tangible win against Oldham, who, a team we've tipped to struggle, and, they did struggle in this game. Batley showed at home as well what they can do, and, they've signed really well, and we did say this, on a season preview. They're going to cause some upsets this season, and, maybe this wasn't an upset, but it's a statement of intent, and, I'm really looking forward to, seeing Batley play, hopefully in person as well. Hopefully, I'll get to catch one of them games once we're actually out of COVID and we can actually get there in person, because I do really enjoy going over to Batley and watch a game of rugby. So yeah, not mega amount to say about this, but if you're a Batley fan, you're absolutely happy and you're feeling safe going into the season. Maybe you can push for playoffs and push mid and upper in the table, but is it realistic? Who knows? Anything can happen, honestly, in the Championship. I've seen strange things happen. If you're an Oldham fan, then I think you're looking on the, it's not ideal. Is it a game that you expect to lose? Potentially, yes. Is it a game that if you couldn't... The fact is, Oldham may be expected to lose this one, but it's a performance that would have meant a lot more. Losing by this amount, the demoralising effect of that also, are they turning themselves and thinking, have we got what it takes to stay in this league? I think Oldham can do it. I just think the problem isn't Oldham being bad. I think the problem is a lot of the teams around them have strengthened really well, and they've strengthened as well. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be intense down there at the bottom, and it's not going to be a case of Oldham are relegated after half at games at season. I don't think it's going to be that sort of a thing at all. But yeah, without further ado, I think we move on to the next game. Solid game, solid Championship game. Fair play, Batley. So also on Saturday, we've got Dewsbury versus Widnes. Now this one I would say was a shock result. Dewsbury going 2 from 2 in the league this season and beating Widnes 22 points to 14. So Widnes now only with the draw that they got against Newcastle yet to pick up a win in 2 games that arguably you would have expected them to win. And it is a very funny one with Widnes. Obviously did well in the cup, got to Salford, obviously got beat by Salford quite heavily, which we did speak about last week. And then you've got kind of your draw with Newcastle and this defeat to Dewsbury outside of it. And they're not big, You know, these games, obviously, you've drawn to Newcastle. They've narrowly lost to Dewsbury here. But you would expect them to win. And, you know, I think me and Matt both tipped Dewsbury will actually go down. And I think they're proving us wrong right from the start. It's just the same as Matt expecting Hull FC to be down there, drop, and look how they've started in Super League. It's a similar thing. And you've got to give it to Dewsbury. No one were questioning that they had a good squad, but they've put a performance here. And they did round one as well. And it's looking good for them. You know, these sort of wins can... You know, they might go on a bad run during season, but they've got these wins to fall back on, which means they're not going to, you know, absolutely fly down the table. So, again, it's a similar situation with Batley. If I were to say, do I think Batley or Dewsbury will finish higher, I would say Batley, even obviously they've got to win less at the minute. But I think I've seen a lot from Batley that shows their intent. Not saying I haven't seen that from Dewsbury, but I do. If I was to ask that question, I would say Batley. But again, if you're a Dewsbury fan right now, you're absolutely on cloud nine, a flying start, and they've got a big game next week up against my Bradford, which we'll preview later, which is going to be a right tasty affair. But yeah, if you're a Widnes fan, I wouldn't go, complaining. Yeah, I think you could still make the playoffs. It's a draw from 2 games. It's not the end of the world, but certainly not what you want. You want a fast start. So yeah, we'll move on to Sunday's games. We'll start off with Featherstone dismantling off Swinton away from home, 36 points to 6. Again, with this one, you know what you're getting from Fev. I know there's a lot of Fev fans who do actually watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, whichever, way you want to go about it. And they'll be happy with this. They've had an absolutely flying start. You know, they didn't disgrace themselves against Hull in the Cup either. And other than that, they've won all the games against, all the competitive games against these other championship sides, whether it's in the Cup or in the league. And again, it's just a professional performance from Fev, and I think it's what we've come so accustomed to from this Fev team over the last couple of years of just get the job done. And the squad's stronger than it has been over the last couple of years, and they haven't got the league's place to fall back on. And a lot of people saying, I'm probably self-admittedly, I'm Fev's biggest critic at times just because of problems I've had as a fan going there or all that sort of thing. But putting any biases of the Bradford Fev rivalry aside, you've got to give it to Fev because it's a club who kind of knows what they're doing. And there's all the fines and stuff about it at the minute about the COVID regulations, but putting all that aside, I've got to say fair play to Fev because on the field they're doing everything right at the minute, and they're definitely, if they keep playing like this, they're going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season and contesting for that Super League place. So fair play to them. Again, small note on Swinton. At the end of the day, it's an expected loss really in this sort of tie. There's not much they can do. They've scored a try. They haven't been disgraced in this game at all. And I think Swinton have shown signs early on in the season that they are still, they're not going to be in that danger zone. I think they are going to just be above that in that sort of mid-table sort of place, which I think is fair for Swinton. I think fans will be happy with it. So yeah. Move on now to Whitehaven 29, Newcastle 20. Big win this for Whitehaven. Needed as well to get off the mark. And Newcastle again, it's kind of similar to Widnes, obviously both on only one draw out of 2 games, and I think this sort of tie for this Newcastle team, which I don't know how to describe it. You can say it's a young Newcastle team, but there is some experience in there as well. Is a team that I kind of expect to do better at home than they will at a game like Whitehaven away. It's a tough place to go for the best of teams, and I think this game has proved that. Whitehaven with a professional performance have got the job done. Fair play, this could be a big result come the end of the season, and are Newcastle going to be dragged down into a bit of a relegation fight? Who knows, honestly. That'll be decided over runs in the season. A team like Dewsbury currently on a bit of a run at the minute. All about the length of these runs and when they happen during the season, that can determine which team goes down. So no team should be sort of frailing just yet. Then we'll go on to a game that I did watch, and I watched sat on the edge of my seat. I tell you that. Bradford 27, Halifax 26. What a game of rugby league. It's one of them games where you just look back and you think, this is what rugby used to be like 20 years ago. It's a proper derby, a proper rough game. There's 4 sin bins in it. It's won by a drop goal. It's proper. It felt like a proper game of rugby, which you don't always see nowadays on Super League and on Sky and that sort of thing. And it was a cracker. And I mean, the way it just turned from one way to the other, Halifax go 14-0 up, and Bradford have got a guy in sin bin and that sort of thing, and then how it turns and Bradford pull it back so it's 14-12 at half time. More players are in sin bin on both teams. It's an absolute state, to be honest, but not mega in there. I don't think there's going to be any big sort of bans coming in or anything like that from the sin bins. They were quite petty, to be fair. And then Bradford come out firing in the second half. What a try from Brandon Pickers as well. I know that's in for Try It week on our league and all that sort of thing, so get voting for that if you're a Bulls fan especially. And we then took it ahead to 24-14, and with 10 points ahead, and I'm thinking Halifax are going to have a moment in this game where they can get back into it, and they took that moment, and they had a little run themselves. 12-point run, two converted tries, took it to 26-24. I'm panicking. We brought it back. Danny Brough penalty, 26-all. Jordan the lead drop goal, and then for about 10 minutes at the end was holding my breath, especially on our league, which is one criticism of our league is the fact that the clock isn't accurate at all. So it's just sat there saying that time should be up, and there's still about 5 minutes left on clock. You don't know when it's going to end. It were out in mouth stuff, but it were proper classic rugby league. And the only bad thing about it was the fact that fans weren't allowed to be there. Because I know even Halifax fans will have enjoyed being there for that sort of type of game. It's a proper Bradford Halifax derby, and I loved it. In terms of coming from this game, I think all it shows is that both teams have intent of getting into the playoffs. I think Bradford, we needed this after the defeat to Sheffield. Halifax beat London, they was on a high, and maybe it brought them down to earth a bit, but I don't think that necessarily was needed. I think it was just a proper derby game, and I think both teams are going to be there or thereabouts with the playoffs at the end of the season. Right, last game of the week, obviously because London and Toulouse was suspended and all that. We went into all that last week. Toulouse got the 24-0 win over London. Less we say about that, the better. York versus Sheffield. Now, I called this last week. Matt called me an idiot for calling Sheffield to beat York, and they've done it. 20 points to 14, and this is one of them where first of all, Sheffield absolutely unbelievable start to the season as well, and it's looking like they could be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. But I want to speak about York quite a lot, and a lot of York fans I've seen on Facebook aren't happy at all because they've not won last season. They did not start off well. I know there were only 4 or 5 games then. Did not start off well at all, and this season they haven't really either. The game against Toulouse, you give them the benefit of the doubt because it is Toulouse. But then this game against Sheffield, and the questions have started to be asked to York, and they need to get on a run because they're down with 0 wins, and that don't mean they can't make the playoffs and can't be in that top sort of 3, which me and Matt both predicted them to be, because they've got the team for it. But a lot of fans are questioning whether bringing in all these ex-Super League players is a smart move. Is it the right direction for the club? Is it going to get them up to Super League and all this? And I think there's still positivity surrounding York in terms of the stadium and the sort of and Ford and that sort of thing. There, it's all it's all good and it's all bright and happy days really. The results will come in, and York fans know that as well. You'll get on a run and you'll win some games. I wouldn't be too disheartened by this. There was in the game by all accounts, and Sheffield are on some form at the minute. It's just how it goes. So yeah, that's it for Championship. Some really good games. I don't think there was really many bad ones between them, and it's all unpredictable as well, which is great. Not when you're predicting the games, it's necessarily not, but it makes for a great league, and anyone can beat anyone in the Championship. We know that, and it makes neutrals think, what, actually I might pay a £5 and watch one of these hour league games because they look like they're going to be absolute crackers, and it's fair enough. It's just Championship absolutely advertising it as one of the best leagues. Is it better than Super League? Obviously, in terms of quality, it's obviously not. But in terms of watchability, a lot of people do say it is better. But I'm not getting into that debate right now. So we will move on now to the Super League results. We'll whiz through these. So we started off obviously on Thursday with a youthful Leeds side again going down 19-6 to Wigan. This is one of them where you can't really knock the Leeds effort. Again, similar to the Saints game, they've got a young side out. They're only real. I mean, Eastman did play, but it's his first game back and all this, and by all accounts, didn't do bad at all. But it is not the sort of Leeds team that we will see come towards the end of the season when everything's decided and that sort of thing. Players like even a player like Ash Hanley, how much they miss him on the wing. Newman, Hurrell, Myler at fullback, Jack Walker at fullback, Luke Gale, Rob Louis. There's all these names that just should be in there, and they're missing a couple from Pack as well, and it's not ideal. But I think some of them boys that are shifting positions, I'm talking your Alex Mellors. I think Alex Sutcliffe's coming into that centre role, and he's shown what he's shown at Fev for the last 2 years, that he's a quality centre, and defensively there's not many better than him defensively, and I think he's deserved his shot and he's taken it. So I think also what this shows is that Leeds have got some right good youngsters coming coming through, especially I like young Walters in the second row. I think he stepped up really well. I think he's going to be a player. And these players, I think once all Leeds' first team players do come back in, they might seek a little loan move out to the Championship. There's a couple of clubs who'll be dying to have them on board, and I do think that's always a positive, that you're getting to showcase this young talent and show what the future is going to hold for Leeds, which is obviously positive. So in terms of Wigan, again, got the job done. Lamb won't have been too concerned with the performance. Hardacre looks class again. He's on some right form. Him and Tompkins are looking like they're fighting it for Man at Steel at this point. But yeah, Wigan just getting the job done, which is what you expect from a Wigan side, and it's what they've become accustomed to under Lamb. They just get the job done. It might not be pretty at times, but they get the job done. They're a top side, fair play. Now moving into Friday. So we'll start off with Castleford dismantling of Lee, 52 points 16. It's not looking good for Lee at the minute. Like I predicted after the game against Wigan, they really needed to win that game, I think. And the confidence has been shot since. Castleford are a top side and they're showing it in this game. They can score some points and they are looking the best they've looked in a good couple of years now. So in terms of Lee, I'm not worried too yet, because there's other teams that have not won a game yet either and look just as bad as Lee do right now. But if you're a Castleford fan, I think you're thinking, playoffs are ours this year, let's go and let's get it and let's try and win a bit of silverware. Why not? So we'll move on quickly to St Helens 34, Wakefield 6. Again, it's one of them where Wakefield are in it in first half, and I said this last week, and Wakefield seem like they can hang for 40 minutes and then they just let it go. It's Saints, we get it. Saints are a classy team, and they can score tries and they can defend as well, and it's always going to be hard to beat them. If any team's going to go unbeaten this season, it would be St Helens, let's be honest. And this was the case here. Again, Wakey, yet to pick up any wins or anything like that, but they're not playing terrible, that's the thing, and that must be the frustrating thing, because if Wakey were playing maybe a Salford or a Lee in one of these games, they'd have won, and that's the annoying thing. If they can't replicate this against them lesser teams, it could be a banana skin, and it's not nice being down there at the bottom of the table, but I think there is still positives there for Wakey, and they're not down by any means just yet. It's only been 3 games, so we're not worrying about that. Saints again, dominant. You just know they're going to be up there in top 1 or 2, top 2 really, come end of season. Quality, the team's absolutely unreal. Like less said about them, the better. I think it's that good. It's just that good. Now another cracker, Hull KR Huddersfield. Now Hull KR seem to love a close game this season so far, and they've actually won one this time, which is good. Again, fair play, quality game. Huddersfield again showing a bit of struggle potentially. Obviously Caesar is back, and you can kind of see Caesar being back is actually having a positive impact on him. But Hull KR have come out on it. Maybe it was due with all the sort of problems they've had actually closing games out or getting the win in these tight games. So fair play to them. That'll give a big boost to their confidence, and it's the sort of thing they needed. It's also the sort of win that Huddersfield desperately needed as well in the league, as they look like they are struggling at the minute. But there's a lot of team in that boat. It's a very split league at the minute. So I think if you're an Huddersfield fan, you're not panicking too much. If you're a Hull KR fan, you're relieved. And you're putting some good combos together if you're an Hull KR fan. I'm happy, especially with a couple of injuries to come back as well. Takarangi and that sort of thing. I think you're happy. So yeah, fair play Hull KR fans. We'll move into Saturday now, and it's Catalans dismantling Salford 42 points to 6. Salford are one of the teams I'm talking about when I'm speaking of struggling. No identity. They're not looking good at anywhere around the park really. Catalan's absolutely bullied them, and it's credit to Catalan, they've been absolutely quality. Obviously over at home you expect Catalan to be dominant and do the job, and they did so. Tompkins starred again, as we've said. Him and Hardick seem to be battling it for Man at Steel at minute, but you just can't knock Catalan's effort and everything like that at the minute, and they are looking like, they're saying as well, I want to be in them playoffs come end of season, and it looks like Salford could be in a relegation scrap, which, was always a worry when you bring in a sort of coach who hasn't, been a first team coach in Super League in. Marshall's got heaps of experience, and I actually liked the appointment. I thought, he's done his job at Halifax in Championship. He's come up to Super League. He's learnt from Best up there as being assistant at Saints, and give him a pop at it. And he ain't doing terrible. I just think the teams, it'll take time to gel and everything like that, and they'll go on a run. Like I'm saying, teams will go on runs in season. I think Salford will do that. Ultimately, Salford are in trouble, but I do think they will survive. So it's not all doom and gloom, Salford. Then onto the first ever draw since Golden Pot was introduced. Hull Warrington 14-all. What a cracker. two teams that are looking really good at the minute, and it's just a quality game. These two teams as well, you expect they're going to be up there at the playoffs, and playing like this they will be, you know what I mean? It's one of them, go and fight to the death, get the try in the last minute, take it to golden point extra time, 2 halves of that and no one can score. And let's be honest, is a point each a fair result? And it begs a load of questions of that, which I actually am going to get onto in a minute, whether golden point's the right thing or that sort of thing. But I just want to, people often trash Super League, English Rugby League, that sort of thing, for not being, maybe not being as good of a product as it used to be, that sort of thing. But when you're seeing games, there's multiple games this year where it's gone down to the last sort of minute at game where a try is being scored, a drop goal is being kicked to influence a game majorly, and it's the same here, and it's just what you love to see. These games are intense, and I think honestly it's some of the best. It's the best I've felt about Super League in a good couple of years. I think it's really good, and I can't wait till fans are back in. Once we've got fans back in, the place will be rocking. It's looking good, and I mean there's problems at the minute, as everyone will know, with all with football and that sort of thing, the problems there. But I think it's time to reflect and look back and think, you know what, maybe Super League is going in a good direction here. Maybe it is, be a bit optimistic about it, because the product on the field is really good, and I'm really enjoying watching it as well. And at times, when your team's not playing as a neutral, you think, it's a bit of a shit game this, but I can't keep my eyes off at telly at times with some of these teams are playing it. It is that good. So, fair play to Super League and fair play to the players as well, because it is tough playing in these sort of situations with no fans and that sort of thing, and they're smashing it. So, now, onto, do I think golden point should be a thing in all this? And originally, when it came in, I was happy with it, because I like the excitement as a neutral, or games drawn, let's play on, let's see who can get a drop goal, let's see who can get a point on board. I like it, I like the idea of it, but I do also understand the flip side of the coin, where it's like they're going to lose a point essentially that they have earned by getting the draw. I think the way it should be is that both teams, when it comes to 80 minutes as a draw, gets a point each, and then they play golden point for the extra point on the league table. Do you know what I mean? So one team goes away with 2 points, one team will get 1 point. I think that's the fairest way to do it. Obviously at the minute that's not the way they are implementing it, which is a bit crap really, but I do like it. I like the excitement as a neutral. If it were, I'm gonna step away and put myself, say it's a Bradford game, let me say that Halifax game goes to golden point, which obviously there isn't in Championship at the minute, but if it went to golden point, and would I be happy with it after the 80 minutes? It's one of them. It's like when your team goes into a penalty shootout. It's a toss of a coin, isn't it? In football, a team goes to penalty shootout, like, well, it's a 50% chance we win from it, 50% chance we lose. It's like gambling. It's like going to a roulette table and putting your money on black or red. You know what I mean? It's one of them. It's pure. Obviously, it's not necessarily fully luck, but it is pure. It's pure risk versus reward and that sort of thing, and that's why people don't like it when the team lose from it. And I do see both sides of it. Personally, I do think it adds something to the game. It makes every game important. If it ends a draw, sometimes you just feel like, oh, well, it's a quality game of rugby, but you kind of want to see that moment where someone wins it, don't you? And that's the thing. I mean, do I think Super League's a better product with it in? Potentially, yes. But then I also understand as a fan how it can be pure heartbreak at times. So I'm going to have to give an opinion. I'm going to say yes, I would keep it in, but I would also implement the rule like I've just said, where you do get the point if it does go to golden point, and then you fight for the extra point to make it 2. I think that's the right way to do it, and I think that's the way they hopefully will implement it in the future. But overall, I would say golden point adds something to the league, yes. Right, and that's me ramble on golden point, because I don't want to go on about that too long, because I know everyone's views are all over the place about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. Realistically, it all depends on how long ago it was that your team got beat on golden point, essentially. But yeah, we'll move on to fantasy, which is another one where, who's got the bragging rights at the end of the day in the Try Time Podcast League. And first of all, I'm going to just mention the weekly leader this week, which is Phil Green, Rhinos fan, with his team Bash Street third team. He's managed 761 points this week. He's still down in 29th, so he's not that high up. I think he may be a late joiner in, but he's done well this week. He's got his team up there, which is fair play. I don't know what's happening with some of my teams. I mean, Matt's in the absolute bin. He'll be glad he's not in here because, as you can see on screen, my team, my two teams, my main team and my team of all ex-Bradford players are both above all three of Matt's teams. So, go message Matt, go tweet Matt saying that he's a crap at fantasy and all that sort of thing. But again, Ben Webster, Phil White are still way away at the top of the league. 2,000 points. They're in the 2,000s essentially. I mean, my team's down there in 1,587. I just don't know what's happening. I mean, Caesar's been back this week to help me out, and then Bill Tupper on played. It's just been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, for me. It's hard to judge, and I don't know if it's a game of luck or if it's a game of pure, smarts and that sort of thing. I mean, I would like to say I'm quite good with like fantasy football, so I thought I'd be decent. Which I mean, I'm not doing too, but I'm down in 16th. I reckon I can be a top 5, top 10 player come end of season, so we'll keep an eye on that. And also in terms of, I wanted to just address in terms of, we said earlier on in the season when we sort of advertised the league, there will be prizes. That is going to be a thing, especially when we get back in person as well. The sort of fun little things we want to do with that. It's not going to necessarily be, you win league, you win 50 quid or whatever like that. It's not going to be something as sort of as big in that way of it. It's going to be something more like a little funny thing where, if you come top at league at end of season, you might be interested in coming as a guest on podcast. We'd love to have something like that. And every week, winner will get put on winners board and that sort of thing. We've got like I say, guys, there's so many ideas that we've actually got that we want to flesh out once we can get past these COVID times, because we've had these ideas for over a year at this point, and it's crazy. And we will implement them, and it's going to be quality. So we want you. That's why we want you all subscribed, so you're around for them sort of stuff. So now we will move on to the fixtures for this weekend, and we'll obviously see how they impact the fantasy table as well. So this time we will start off with Super League. So we've got Wigan versus Castleford, right? So I'm trying to think of what Matt would say now, but I think he'd probably predict a draw or something like that. So I'm gonna say, based on the fact Wigan are still missing a couple of players, I know sort of French is coming back in and that sort of thing now, but I am going to say Castleford. I do think generally they are on form. They're one of the form teams in the comp. They're looking great going forward, as well as holding their own a bit defensively as well. Truman's showing his class, and I think it'll be a tight game this, but I do think Castle just have a bit too much for Wigan. So I'm putting Cast down. In terms of next up, Huddersfield St Helens. Again, I think St Helens might even go unbeaten this season. I think they're that good. So I'm going to put St Helens. Hull KR Leeds. I do think this is going to be a tight one, and I'm going to say Leeds. I think they're due a win with this young sort of core that they've had to put in recently in these last two games against St Helens in Cup and Wigan. I think they're due a win, and I think that's going to come against Hull KR. Salford versus Lee. Now this is an interesting one because two struggling teams, and I'm actually going to predict Lee to win this. I think Lee will circle this on calendars as a game that they have to win, and I think they could blitz Salford here, and Salford are really low on confidence, whereas I think this Lee team, they're expecting to get beat by these bigger teams, and it's happening, but there's still a team there, and there's still what happened in week 1 against Wigan, and I'm backing it to be a close game, but I'm backing Lee. Now, Hull FC against Wakefield. Again, I think it'll be the same old story for Wakey. They'll be in the game at times, but they'll just not have enough quality to get them over the line. So, yeah, I reckon Hull FC have got this one. First home team I've actually predicted to win this week as well so far, which is interesting. And then Catalans versus Warrington. And again, I'm going to go Catalans. I think they're playing really well. This again will be a close one. It's one of them things, that's what I'm saying about Super League at the minute. Every game seems like it's a close game and it's going to be a big game. And it's, apart from who Saints are playing at times, unless they're playing one of other big teams, like Hull FC or Wigan or that sort of thing. But I think it's just a quality lineup, and it gets me excited about Super League and what's to come end of season when we've got them big playoff clashes. I'm really looking forward to that, especially with fans in stadium as well. It's going to be quality, and honestly, let me know your guys' views. Are you looking forward to getting back on terraces and watching your team? Whether it's whether you're a League One fan, a Championship fan, a Super League fan, anything like that, or if you just like your amateur sides in Conference League and that sort of thing. I just can't wait to get actually to a game properly. It's going to be great. We'll move on to Championship now, where we've got London versus Oldham. They've actually got a game this week, London, and I think they're going to bounce back and get a win. I think they need it for the season. Obviously, even though they will have only played 2 games, they will have 3 losses on the record if they do lose this game against Oldham. Oldham could do with a win here, but it's not expected down in London, and I do think London are going to want to get a win here, so I think they'll do it. Batley versus Widnes. I'm going to back Batley. Again, I'm going to go with the form over the struggling form or the extra quality that Widnes may have. I do think Batley will win this. I think this will be a tight one. Another one of them games similar to the Widnes game so far this season where it's going to be tight. It's going to be a try or so in it. But I'm backing Batley. Swinton versus York. I do think York will win this one. I think they need the win. And I think Swinton, even though they are really good at home and have looked good in the game so far this season, I do think York are just going to have a bit too much for them. Fev versus Whitehaven. I'm got to back Fev here, honestly. I think Fev are looking good at the minute. So are Whitehaven though, so it's no disrespect to Whitehaven, but I do think Fev have just got that bit too much. Halifax versus Toulouse. Interesting one this, because I do like the look of the Fax team. Obviously watching them against Bradford, they are a good little outfit, that Fax team, and you know they've got Tangata to come into the team as well, and he's a quality prop. They're a big team as well. That I mean, I don't know how we beat them, to be honest, but I am going to still say Toulouse, because I think Toulouse is a Super League team essentially just wrapped in under a Championship club's name essentially at this point. The players they've got is unreal. Newcastle versus Sheffield. I'm going to back the form again of Sheffield. I think it'd be a close tie without the form anyway, but I think Sheffield are just looking too hot to handle at the minute. And, you know, quality. Also, I want to just say as well, obviously I want to send out my best wishes to Paddy Burns, who obviously got stretchered off for Sheffield. I'm hearing he is looking alright. It's not as serious as was first assumed, but again, you never like to see a player go down, so, you know, best of luck to Paddy on his recovery. And then finally, the tie of the round, as I'm going to say, Bradford versus Dewsbury, the Tetley Stadium derby. You love to see it. I wish I could have been there and stood in away end at our home ground. It'd have been quality. I'm going to say Bradford just because I think we're on a high from that win against Halifax, as are Dewsbury. But I think it's going to be another tasty derby clash, which I think is going to come down to game winners. And both teams have got that, and that was the case in the Halifax game for Bradford. You know, when you've got Danny Brough and Jordan Lilly, you can win any game really. They were absolutely quality, both of them, especially Lilly against Halifax. And I think if they have a similar performance, as well as we get the sort of good stuff out of the props, you know, like a Levy and Zongu has another game like that, Eben Skur, Steve Crossley, Dan Fleming, they were absolutely unreal against Halifax. If they have a game like that, I do think we'll have a bit too much for Dewsbury, so I am backing the Bulls. That's all the predictions. No doubt Matt, what I'm for sure I know Matt had predicted was for Dewsbury to beat Bradford, so let's hope that doesn't happen next week. But yeah, next week we will have Matt back, and we also me and Matt will be recording a video for Saturday as well, so you will have a video then as well from both of us. And obviously, like I say, a podcast next week. We're also looking to get some guests on and that sort of thing. And like I've said, we are looking to get back into the studio so you can see our lovely faces as we're talking absolute crap about rugby half the time, really, let's be honest. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. And like I've said, subscribe, like, whether that you listen to the audio or the video. I feel like at times we do forget about the audio people. There is a lot of people actually do listen to it on sort of Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so I just want to say a bit of a shout out to you guys, as you are loyal fans, and we do all, you know, we usually like, oh, if you're on YouTube watching the video, but we do appreciate you audio listeners as well, and we appreciate all you guys because you are giving us a lot of support and that sort of thing and feedback, and it does keep us going, and we are wanting to do bigger, better things come post-COVID, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. But yeah, other than that, guys, I've been Callum, and I will catch you later. Catch you on Saturday for the video, and thanks for watching, guys. See you later.